They fired me for no reason and celebrated by throwing me a pathetic excuse for a farewell party. I took their severance check without argument and vanished completely. 15 years. That's how long I spent climbing the corporate ladder at Sterling Cooper, building someone else's empire while my own ambitions were locked away in a dusty file cabinet. 15 years of sacrificing weekends for quarterly reports and missing family dinners for late-night conference calls. 15 years of swallowing my pride when a less qualified colleague got the promotion I deserved. 15 years of being told, "Just be patient, Ethan. Your time will come." That time, I thought, had finally arrived on a Tuesday in October. I was called into the glass-walled office of Mr. Henderson, the senior VP I'd reported to for the better part of a decade. I walked in expecting to discuss the new marketing strategy I'd poured my heart and soul into for the past 6 months. This was the project, the one that was supposed to redefine our brand and, in turn, my career. I'd even worn my lucky tie, the blue one with the silver stripes. After all, this was supposed to be my moment, my big break, my future finally taking shape. I sat in that plush leather chair across from his mahogany desk, watching him shuffle a few papers. When he finally looked up, I expected a handshake, a pat on the back, maybe even a word of praise for the all-nighters I'd pulled. Instead, he slid a single white envelope across the polished wood. "What's this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "We're restructuring," he said. His tone as cold and sterile as the office around us. "Your position has been made redundant." I stared at the envelope, then at him. He wasn't joking. There was no empathy in his eyes, just the detached efficiency of a man taking out the trash. For weeks, I was a ghost haunting my own life. The silence in my apartment was deafening, a stark contrast to the constant hum of the office I'd once called a second home. The severance check felt like blood money, a paltry sum for a decade and a half of loyalty. Every rejection email from other firms was another nail in the coffin of my confidence. I spent my days staring at the ceiling and my nights replaying Henderson's words. The casual cruelty of it all. They hadn't just taken my job. They'd taken my identity. Ethan Cole, the marketing guru, the go-to guy, was gone. In his place was just Ethan, and I had no idea who that was anymore. But then, one rainy afternoon, staring out at the gray city skyline, a different kind of feeling started to bubble up from the depths of my despair. It wasn't anger, not exactly. It was something sharper, colder. It was resolve. They thought they could erase me, discard me like an old memo. They thought my story ended with that white envelope. They were wrong. My story was just beginning. I took what was left of my savings, every last penny, and didn't invest it in stocks or real estate. I invested it in myself. I started a small consulting firm from my dining room table, fueled by lukewarm coffee and a burning desire to prove them all wrong. The first year was brutal. I was the CEO, the intern, and the janitor all rolled into one. I worked 18-hour days, cold calling potential clients, building a website from scratch, and living off instant noodles. I leveraged every contact I'd ever made, every piece of knowledge I'd painstakingly acquired during my 15 years at Sterling Cooper. I knew their playbook inside and out, their strengths, their weaknesses, their blind spots. And I used that knowledge to my advantage, chipping away at the market, winning small accounts they were too arrogant to bother with. Slowly, painfully, things started to turn. One small client became 2, then 10. My one-man operation grew, and I hired my first employee, then my second. We were the scrappy underdogs, the nimble team that could outmaneuver the lumbering corporate giants. While Sterling Cooper was bogged down in bureaucracy and internal politics, my firm, Cole Creative, was delivering innovative campaigns and getting real results. We became known for our fresh perspective and our relentless work ethic. My name, once erased from a company directory, was now being whispered in boardrooms across the city. The turning point came 5 years after my termination. Sterling Cooper, once the undisputed king of the industry, was faltering. Their old guard tactics weren't working anymore, and they were losing major accounts left and right. Their stock was plummeting, and rumors of a hostile takeover were swirling. It was then that I got a call from a number I hadn't seen in half a decade. It was a member of Sterling Cooper's board of directors. They wanted to hire my firm. They needed a miracle, and apparently, I was the man who could deliver it. I walked back into that building not as a supplicant, but as a savior. The familiar scent of lemon polish and stale coffee hit me, but this time, it didn't trigger a wave of painful nostalgia. It smelled like victory. I walked past my old cubicle, now occupied by a fresh-faced kid who probably thought restructuring was just a word in a textbook. I strode into the same glass-walled office where my career had been executed. But this time, I wasn't the one sitting in the visitor's chair. I took my place at the head of the conference table, and a group of anxious-looking executives, including a much grayer, much more desperate-looking Mr. Henderson, filed in to listen to me. I laid out my proposal. It was bold, it was aggressive, and it was expensive. It involved a complete overhaul of their brand identity, a radical shift in their marketing strategy, and a painful gutting of the very departments that had grown stagnant and complacent, the same departments that had cheered my exit. Henderson sat there, his face pale, as I detailed the plan. He knew I held the fate of his company, his entire legacy, in my hands. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. The man they had thrown away was now their only hope. They agreed to every single one of my terms. They had no choice. Over the next year, I became their biggest client, in a manner of speaking. My firm billed them millions, and I orchestrated their resurrection from the inside out. I made the tough calls, I cut the dead weight, and I implemented the very ideas they had once dismissed. And under my guidance, Sterling Cooper began to climb back from the brink. The day our contract was set to conclude, I requested a final meeting in that same office. Henderson was there, looking defeated but relieved. He started to thank me, to offer praise for the miraculous turnaround. But I held up a hand to stop him. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a single white envelope, sliding it across the polished mahogany desk, right where he had slid mine all those years ago. "What's this?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. "A final recommendation," I said, my voice as calm and steady as a surgeon's hand. "As a condition of my continued advisory role, I'm recommending a new round of restructuring. Your position has been made redundant." I stared at the envelope, then at him. I wasn't joking. There was no emotion in my eyes, just the cool, detached satisfaction of a debt finally being paid in full. If you made it this far, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I have selected for you a story to watch next, and I am sure you will enjoy it. Because here at English with Drama, every story proves one thing: revenge is temporary, but redemption lasts forever.